Let's move on to our next subject of the evening, which is the open category. And do get those questions. We are going to come back to the chat and get some feedback in there once we've buzzed through a few of these sections as well here. So the open category is obviously where the majority of recreational flights take place. Obviously, you don't have to be flying recreationally to be flying in the open category. There is no longer that particular separation within the open category. There are 3 subcategories. Obviously, you have your A1, which is flying over people, A2 flying close to people, and A3 far from people.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
Can I jump in?
Yes.
A1 is close to people, so it may be over people, maybe not. Yes,
although the definitions that are given are A1 over people, A2 close to people, A3 far from people. Those are the active definitions, yeah. So, as I say, there is an upcoming consultation, but we do still have the hangover from the fact that the C-class drones and the EASA membership thing, etc., has kind of thrown the open category into a little bit of turmoil, hasn't it? Because we don't have the C1 drones, the C2 drones. Well, we have them, but we can't use them, basically. So there are changes coming, but in the meantime, we've got some limited benefits, as it were. So the A1 subcategory, with this you have got benefits in terms of and it's important, firstly, before we talk about the subcategories themselves, is that airspace restrictions are airspace restrictions. So whichever you are flying in, you need to check your airspace, look on Drone Assist, check for NOTAMs, etc., check for restricted airspace. Airspace is airspace, whether you're flying a Mini 3 or whether you're Graham flying at 1,000 feet with his lovely shiny new OSC. As I put with Graham's advert there, his link is in the description. Should you need any specialist drone services flying up to 1,000 feet and that type of thing, you want some very pretty pictures from very high up, Graham is your man. But the airspace is the same for all of us in these categories and the specific category. So there is no, A1 sub 250 isn't some kind of get out of jail, don't worry about airspace kind of issue there. And obviously with sub 250 grams, you do have the ability in the A1 airspace to fly over people. You still need to obviously make sure those flights are safe within Article 241. That's extremely important. But also, if you pass the A2 CFC, one of the benefits that you still have is that you can fly things like the DJI Avata, which is under 500 grams, in the A1 airspace, but just with no intentional flights over people. And good luck getting a definition on what intentional flights over people means. But that is the thing. And obviously, my interpretation of that, it means that should you veer over people or should people suddenly come into your flight space, then do everything you can to minimize that immediately. Bearing in mind you still have zero separation, just not flying over people with a sub 500 with an A2 CFC, then I can understand why some unintentional overflight is bound to happen, because how on earth, when you're allowed to fly with zero separation, how on earth do you stop flying over them sometimes, unintentionally, of course.
Absolutely. And it is a bit odd, isn't it? Because the biggest benefit of the A2 CFC is probably that it falls. The biggest benefit of the A2 CFC designed for the A2 subcategory is in the A1 subcategory.
Exactly. And in actual fact, just popping across to one of the messages in the live chat from Mike Jones. Mike, good to see you, one of our channel members. This sort of thing worries me as someone new to the hobby. It feels as though the CAA just want to push the hobbyist out of the sky. I don't get that impression, honestly, with all the meetings and discussions and everything else that I have and that I'm involved in. I honestly do not get that impression whatsoever. In actual fact, the newer rules, the existing rules, are better for hobbyist flyers, recreational flyers, than they used to be. We have the freedoms of the sub 250 grams, which you don't even have to have a certificate for. You just obviously have to have it registered if it's got a camera and read the manual, basically, and then obviously fly safe and the same flight air restrictions as anybody else. But so you've actually got a lot more freedom for sub 250 for the hobby. And then with also things like the Article 16, the hard fought Article 16, which we will come on to in a little bit, the hard fought by people like Simon Dell from FPV UK, then you've also got that situation as well, basically. So honestly, I can understand the fear honestly, I can understand the fear, especially with all the remote ID and the chat in the US at the moment and everything else like that. But I honestly don't see that as a headline that I'm chasing. And I'm pretty cynical in these meetings. I'm pretty cynical when I'm talking to people in all areas of the industry, regulator, enforcement, all of it. And it is not something that I get the impression they're looking to do. How about you, Graham?
Before 2021, the start of or the very, very end of 2020, all those flights of Tower Bridge that you see on the Facebook groups that are legal couldn't be taken without having a permission for commercial operations, because you wouldn't be allowed in that congested area with a drone.
That's right. That's
so
right.
It was only at 11 o'clock on the 31st of December 2020 where you could actually go and take your sub 250-gram drone and go and fly. The day before or the hour before, you needed a permission for commercial operations, an operation manual, flight planning, 30-meter takeoff, 50-meter clearance, blah, blah, blah.
We are, myself and Graham are absolutely more than happy to criticise, and as we have done, some of our videos called "Are the Drone Rules Broken?" and that type of thing, and all of the VLOS videos, even showing you how to fly beyond AMC. Still staying legal, in my opinion, in terms of the CAA guidance. But so we are critical when we need to be. But to be fair, in terms of recreational flying, you can, at the moment, you can fly more than you ever used to be able to, basically, with different types of drones as well. So that's the A1 category. A2, which is basically close to people. Now, this is probably one of the hardest hit in terms of, well, I don't know actually, because to be fair, if we had the C classes, we'd have had the C1 Mavic 3 Classic, which would have been a real hot seller because in tripod mode you could have got within 5 meters of people without anything else, without any other requirements. So
no, C1 would have been in the A1 subcategory.
Yeah, which is what I'm saying. I'm saying
no, 5 meters you could fly exactly the same clearances as
because you got it's the C2 with the 5 meters in tripod mode. Yeah, but it isn't just A2 is what is basically what I was saying, that it's the A1 airspace as well that suffered essentially from not having those C class. And I do think if we had the C class drones in effect, a lot of people like Mike probably wouldn't be feeling the same way because we would have C class drones that we can fly very close to people, and then even heavier drones like the new C2 Pro that we could get within 5 meters of people with the tripod mode engaged if you had the correct certification. So we've been hit hard, and hopefully we're not going to have to wait for all of this to be gotten out of the way, and hopefully they're going to launch more than one consultation at once, so we don't have to sort out the specific category and then come back to the open category. I hope that isn't the case, because we are kind of in a bit of a hangover situation at the moment, aren't we, basically? But in the A2
together, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. In the A2, which is obviously congested areas, when you again pass your A2 C of C, you don't have the C2 drones that we were all salivating over, or although most of us misunderstanding when the A2 C of C was first out, and not realizing it was C1s that we were actually salivating over. But then with within this transitional period we're in at the moment, with C2 drones not being a thing as well, you have to obviously stay sub 2 kilograms, no overflight, of course, because in fact there's a 50-meter horizontal separation from uninvolved people, which if you're flying in a congested area with a sub 2 kilogram drone, that's quite hard to maintain, isn't it?
That is very difficult to maintain. Yeah, I mean, with a GVC you can fly, but there is an allowance for overflight. You would avoid overflight, but you can fly. It's essentially in a bubble. That makes it easy to stay 50 meters from people, because you just go 55 meters in the air. When it's a horizontal clearance, then that's 100 meters diameter. That you've got to control the people entering, coming into it, coming out their house, whatever. It's useful in less densely populated, low density housing.
Indeed.
Low density or very quiet industrial areas at the weekend, perhaps. city centre, it's just not designed for.
No, and you can actually, it's a tougher one to be able to build a drone business on. I think when the A2 CFC was first devised, it was okay, open category. You're not going to have a specific permission to fly commercially. And in fact, with the A2 CFC, you'll have the C2 class of drone, and in fact, people could have quite easily with C2 and C1 built very, very successful businesses flying small, safe drones very close to people and in and around people. But we don't have that freedom at the moment. So again, it's why one of the reasons why people are angry about that, of course.
Yeah, and that 2 kilo weight was sort of useful when Phantoms were a thing, but actually now it's sort of a strange weight, and even if you've got a C2 drone, if we could use C2 drones, those go up to 4 kilos. But again, the new Inspire is going to be over 4 kilos, presumably. I've not looked at the weight of it. So it's a really strange sub 4 kilo drone. Which ones are they? I think even an I2 is over 4 kilos. So yeah, it's an odd one.
So again, perhaps the consultation that we showed earlier in the show in terms of the certification, does that point to the fact that they are looking to tear up the EASA rulebook, as it were, and actually we will get a slightly different system. Perhaps it will still be recognizing those C labels, because I don't think we can expect drone manufacturers to make drones just for our UK ratings. So perhaps it will be the C system, but perhaps applied in a slightly different way, perhaps a list of approved drones or something of that nature. But it does suggest that we might see something unique rather than just going back to C class, as I say, which is actually still an option. Now, there is actually a video on Geeksvana, which is linked in the description, which was an interview with Callum Holland from the CAA, where we talked about separations with the A2 CFC and whether or not flying over a building means that you are you don't have to worry about that separation, that type of thing. And there's some very good practical advice for real world flights in that video. So if that interests you, do head over and have a look. And the other subcategory, so we've done the A1, the A2. The other subcategory is A3, which is the far from people, which this is the category that recreational pilots used to have as their playground, as it were. And again, there's no sort of weight limits for certain types of certification restrictions and that type of thing. It's a much more open thing, because of course you are flying very far from people, and you've still got to stay 50 meters from people. But again, if you're flying in an open field and that kind of flying in the countryside, that shouldn't be too much of an issue. But also 150 meters from residential, commercial, etc. And the definition of what residential, commercial, etc. can differ depending on who you speak to. The CAA, in terms of their guidance, is even really a single house can be residential, but that's, as far as I'm aware, that's not in legislation. So I personally look at it that there needs to be a bit of a conurbation there before I would personally treat it as the term under this for residential, personally speaking. But again, that would need to be tested in court. Of course.
And what you wouldn't do is choose to fly your drone around and all over the house. You would choose to fly your drone away from the house that happens to be in the field where you're flying.
Exactly. So those are the main sort of three airspace types, as it were. Let me just bring up one other document which I wanted to show people and give a QR code for, because I feel like it's actually quite a useful piece of kit. Let me go across to this page, and this is the second one, which is CAP 2012.
That's what I've got in front of me.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a very simple document, and it's a single page one. I'll leave it up for a couple more seconds, and it breaks down the subcategories in a very simple way to the current rules. So again, this is actually covering since the C labels were withdrawn in the UK, since the new transitional period was put in, and really for a recreational flyer, having this one document I was about to put a caveat in there just in case they actually decide to refresh it again. But certainly for now, this is a good document to have on hand, because it is very simple. And as it says here, A1, fly over uninvolved people, but not over crowds. And it explains obviously up to 250 grams in weight. You need registering as a UAS operator only if camera is equipped, but not toys. And the only other competency that you need to show is that you've read the user manual. And then again, it shows the extra A1 transitional, so not after 1st of January 2026, which is flying between 250 and 500 grams if you've read the user manual, done some online training, the self-practical training, so you need your flyer ID as well, and the A2 CFC theoretical test under your arm as well, basically, to do that 500 grams.
So it's worth saying, isn't it? Because they don't use the words flyer ID or even DMARAs, but that online training, online foundation test is essentially the DMARA. It's the flyer ID.
Exactly. The UAS operator registration bit is the operator ID under DMARAs, and the remote pilot competency is the flyer ID. I mean, why on earth would they put that?
And the self-practical training part, you'll be advised by your RAE if you're doing the A2 CFC, because you have to sign up, do the training course with one of the RAEs, and they will advise you on what the self-practical training is, so that you've got some practical. You will sign up to say, yes, I've flown a drone for X hours, and I didn't kill anyone.
And the A2 category, as you see here, does become extremely simple at the moment in the UK. No closer than 50 meters horizontal from uninvolved people. It is effectively A2 is now a transitional thing. There's no C classes to come in and complicate things. Up to 2 kilogram flying weight. Yes, you do need to be registered on both sides of DMARAs, and you need the A2 CFC basically. So that really gives you, once you want to fly something over 500 grams, up to 2 kilograms. So something like the Air 2S here type of thing, you would need your A2 CFC, and then to keep 50 meters horizontally away from uninvolved people. But again, in its particular use cases, I fly with the A2 CFC, and unless it's a particularly busy area, I've become fairly competent and fairly confident at keeping a 50 meter horizontal separation, and with the right things it can work. If you need that better camera, because of course the Mini 3 Pro is a fantastic camera on there, and a lot of sub 250s do have those. I'm sorry that I talk DJI drones a lot on these type of sections, but it is what a lot of people fly, and it is what I fly as well. But sometimes you do need that better camera so that the Air 2S is useful. So that's when the A2 can help. So to me, it's still worth having it as a certificate, because you get that 500 gram, but then you also get a bit of flexibility up to 2 kilograms.
Absolutely. There's certain jobs I go on which are in areas, like I say, either low density, industrial, or special purpose, special use, which would be considered congested areas. But when there's nobody there, and I know there's nobody there, then I'll fly. I'll say, yep, that flight is under my A2 CFC. When I break out one of the bigger drones, then yes, I have to start doing the flight planning and say, yep, that one's that one unfortunately comes into the operation authorization. But yeah, it is very, it gives you a certain amount of flexibility if you're a professional operator.
Yeah, no, indeed. And the A3, no uninvolved people present within the area of the flight, maintain 50 meter separation from any uninvolved people, as we were saying, and no flight within 150 of the residential, commercial, etc. And again, up to 25 kilograms there. So you're pretty much golden with anything you can buy as a consumer drone. You would really be going getting above that, frankly.
It's flying fields, isn't it? It's the fixed wing brigade as well, who can fly some very big models. And the just interesting that I think the statement in the legislation is that the pilot has to have a reasonable expectation that nobody will enter that 50 meter zone. Doesn't mean they won't. Somebody could come along a footpath, and enter it, but you've got to have a reasonable expectation that while you're flying, you're not going to have crowds of people turning up.
Exactly. And if you look back through all of the interviews I did with Callum on this, on the A2CFC and that type of thing, it is always talking about using common sense, and they are aware that there is a practical implementation of these rules into the airspace. You're not going to get a police officer measuring a 50-meter line from you to the people. So we're talking, this is really to stop you flying really close to people and that type of thing, so that, if someone starts flying a Mavic 3, 10 meters from someone, obviously you're well within the 50 meters. So it gives them that bit of, as I say, you do not expect the CAA or the police or anybody to be getting tape measures out on this type of thing, basically. But with the A3,
they would be very clear reach, wouldn't they?
Yeah, exactly. And with the A3, the other benefit here is that you're going the other way again in terms of certification. So all you need is to be registered to have your operator and flyer ID on there. Obviously, if you start going sub 250, you go back automatically back into A1, even if you are in the middle of a field, essentially, just because of the weight of drone that you are flying. So that's the document there, and I'm going to pop the QR code up again. There will be a link after the show to CAP 2012 in the description as well, and it is something which I just find just such a simple and now it's been updated since the recent changes. Such a simple and a great document, basically. So easy to follow. So we have one other type of way of flying your drone here in the UK, which is an important one for us to talk about, and that is the Article 16 authorization. Now, the first thing to stress on this is that this is actually an authorization, so it isn't legislation. So Article 16 is essentially there was it's there because of legislation that says the CAA have to make accommodations for the model flying world, the RC model flying world, but in itself is actually an authorization. So this is an operational authorization which is granted to FPV UK and BMFA. I think, are they the only two now? I don't think the Scottish one have it anymore, actually.
And of course, because it's not in the it falls outside the open category, because it is allowing you to do things which you can't do in the open category.
Yes.
And therefore it falls automatically within the specific category.
Exactly.
And that places certain additional responsibilities on people flying under it, particularly if they have incidents and accidents.
Exactly. So you do need to be a member of one of those organisations, and you need to follow their guidelines and their handbook in terms of what you need to do, and that will include completing risk assessments. And we don't just mean one in your head that we all do. You actually do need to complete a risk assessment for a new site and submit it. You don't have to have an approval back or anything else like that. The BMFA one is really simple. You just upload it on a web link and it's done. And of course, they like you to report as many incidents that are happening as possible as well as part of that. And that's really because they, as operational authorization holders, have a responsibility to report incidents back. And in actual fact, as per Simon Dale, when he came on the channel to discuss Article 16, it's good to report the incidents, because if you have, X thousand incidents that happen during a year and there's no property damage and there's no injuries, it actually proves that, the Article 16 is being deployed very safely, basically. So it's a good thing. Now, this gives you permission to fly within 30 meters of people, and you can fly over them in a bubble. So effectively, you have to have that 30-meter bubble around your drone. You can take off and land within 15 meters, 5 meters of uninvolved people, with extra mitigation. Now, the extra mitigation isn't specifically described in the authorization, but both the BMFA and FPV UK do have further advice on how that can happen. I would say it's as simple as having someone else being around to warn people not to come into that area, or to warn you not to land because someone's come in within the 15 meters type thing. A simple mitigation like that would certainly do it. And again, you're looking at it's it's the full drone weight, so you're not restricted to sub 2 kilogram or anything else like that. And you're also, some of the other benefits of it is that you can set up sterile areas where you only need one spotter. So for things like FPV events and that type of thing, that can help. And it does also mean that you can fly within congested areas with those, but it must be somewhere which is primarily used for leisure. So we're talking about parks, beaches, and that type of thing. So you can't just sort of, rock up into Guildford town centre and just take off from the side of the road as you might be able to with a sub 250 under the Article 16 with a heavier drone. It has to be within those areas of leisure. And the other important thing as well is that you have to keep within the volume of airspace. So you can't take off from a park in a congested area and fly out over residential. You have to stay within that volume, basically, which is a very important part to remember. And of course, the other one is that this is for recreational flights only.
Yeah.
So no commercial flights whatsoever. There are other advantages. FPV UK have tons of other benefits to joining. There's something like, I think it's something like £30 a year, and you get millions of pounds of public liability insurance for your flights as well. Tons of support and backup, and Simon's always updating the list of discounts and vouchers that you get for being a member with all sorts of companies, from training companies for A2CFCs and all the way through to outdoor clothing companies and that type of thing as well, which is absolutely fantastic. So that's the basics. If you watch this live stream this evening, that's the basics in terms of how to get you flying your drone more often out there, and hopefully, enjoying more places to fly. It isn't doom and gloom. It isn't, there is no one, in my opinion, trying to stop you flying your drone in terms of legislator and that type of thing. Certainly, obviously, we all have the so-called, I hate the K word, we'll call it. I hate using that term. But we do have obviously public who are threatened by, don't understand, and we're always going to have that. But certainly there's a lot of ways for us to enjoy the hobby here in the UK. Certainly. And just going back from the chat to have a look at a few things that people are saying here. Amok Time Flies saying the open category that has its own little certificates and things. Very proud of my A2 CFC. Thank you very much. Yes, excellent. And yeah, it is. I do find, Graham, that people do take a pride as well, don't they, when they do have that ability to get these kind of certificates.
Absolutely. There are some people who say, sub 250, you don't need an A2 CFC. No, you don't, but it's amazing what you'll learn doing that course. Yeah. And for the price of a battery, you can learn an awful lot. And you can go on to some of the sites, I don't know, UAV Hub do it, you can go and do the course and not take the exam. So you get that knowledge for nothing. And then if you want to take the exam and feel proud that you've got the certificate and can prove it and wave it around to people, brilliant. And you can stick another couple of LEDs onto your Mini, take it over 250 grams and still fly in a town centre, guys.
Indeed. Now, there was one slightly earlier which was talking about, he had it on in the background and it was too gobbledygook, so he left. And we have this one from New Turk. God, just fly your drone, don't listen to the noise. That's up to you. This channel is here to provide the information. Whether you use it or not is completely up to you. However, I absolutely guarantee you that enforcement is increasing in the UK, and it is something which we all need to be very, very aware of. We've got things like the fixed penalty notices coming. There is a change in the atmosphere of enforcement. And you ask the several people that are going through the courts at the moment who are being fined for their UK drone flights, including those that have already been found guilty this year, whether they wish they listened to the noise, and you might get a different answer. But again, as I say, we only ever provide the information. It's up to you to go and to actually deploy that information however you see fit, basically. But what is noise to you is interesting information to other people. So just do keep that in mind. Having a look else here in the chat.
Bramhall does. Hello.
What's wrong? Sorry.
We'll come on to Bramhall does after.
Okay, excellent. Christine Crockford, too many laws makes everything too complicated. No wonder cops can't get the rules right. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It becomes a very complicated thing in terms of should that person be flying that drone stood in front of that police officer. So I do completely agree with that sentiment, Christine, and hopefully that will get sorted in terms of if we can get to a position by the end of this year, I'm hoping at least. I mean, is that probably too optimistic? But certainly by the end of this transitional period, where we can have some consistency in regulation, so that we can just get our heads down and enjoy the hobby, basically.
Yeah, consistent. Well, I've written some blogs, haven't I?
Yes.
Consistency and continuity, please. Yeah, just when they're up there, Bramhall does. Hello, just purchased a DJI Mini 3 Pro. Will watch this video as I have a lot to learn, and so far watched lots of your videos. They are brilliant. Quite right too. So anxious about my first flight. Don't be. Go. You can fly it in A1. You can fly it in the town centre, but please don't go to an open area. Fly it in an open area. Get it above any obstacles. Do it when the wind isn't blowing a hoolie like it has been most of this week. And just take it easy and enjoy it. And if something looks like it's going wrong, looks like it's going towards something, take your hands off the sticks. It'll just hover there.
Yeah. Now, I wish we had more freedoms as a hobby in terms of size of drones and that type of thing. And I don't personally agree that 250 grams should have been the limit to set. But you have chosen the right drone in the UK right now. So it is something which you know, and again, bear in mind, there isn't police officers hiding in the bushes to jump out at you. There isn't CAA, you know, they're not looking actively to catch you out here. And it isn't, you know, the very second something goes slightly wrong or slightly outside of regulation, that's it. You're going to get, you know, a huge fine, and they're going to use you to blame why they're shutting the hobby down. You know, enforcement is balanced in this country in terms of drones, and as Christine was saying before, quite often you'll find individual officers won't know the regulations, etc. But it is a common sense thing, and just relax, as Graham's saying, enjoy it. It is a fantastic hobby, and you've definitely chosen the right drone in terms of getting as much airspace access as possible in the UK right now. So certainly well done for that. And as Amok Timeflies, one of our members, is saying, just get out in a field, exactly as you were saying, Graham, and you'll have a brilliant time. Good luck. And
sorry, Mark.
But just, you know, sheer hours increases confidence. It really, really does. And, you know, just fly the drone a few meters away from you for the first one, and just challenge yourself to learn something new each time, and just develop those skills. Muscle memory is very important for confidence as well. The fact that you know what happens when you need things to happen. Hit the return to home button a few times. Make sure you've got satellites and a home, and make sure, because it's obviously a DJI product, it will say home point is updated on the map and things. So make sure you have those signals coming out. Make sure you set up things like return to home to come back, not just sit and hover, and that type of thing. And really just, enjoy and just build that confidence slowly. But you will get there. You will absolutely get there.
The other one I'd say is, if you're not familiar with photography and video, get familiar with the drone on the ground. Stick a fan on it, because they can get a bit warm. But you can do everything the drone can do in the air. You can do without taking off, and learn those camera controls before you take off. Don't do it with the drone in the air, because then that will lead to an accident. And
exactly. And John Burns is saying here, if you were flying a Mavic at a height of 70 meters, how are you supposed to know that your drone is 50 meters horizontally away from an uninvolved person? An excellent question. And I would, you know, it's something that you're going to have to take judgments on. But in my opinion, this is my pure opinion, this is not based on anything else but my experience of having many conversations and making tons of content and being far too involved with drones than anybody should sanely have. But I do not believe there are going to be people that are going to be measuring that. If that drone was to drop out of the sky and something was to happen, hit a car or something, and there was a problem to dissect, if it's not obvious I would say you'll certainly have a problem if it's found within 10 meters of something or that type of thing. But, you're not going to get hang on a minute, you were 48 meters or you were 45 meters. In my opinion, it is there to get you to stay away from uninvolved people. But I have never heard of any situation where anybody has even been investigated for being, slightly within it or not being able to justify it, basically, if that makes sense.
You need to be essentially the answer to that question is planning. So yes. Don't plan to be in a town centre where there are going to be people within 50 metres wherever you are. Doesn't matter if you're 70 metres up, 100 metres up, there will be people within 50 metres of you. If it comes down and hurts somebody, the argument will be there were always going to be people within 50 metres. How were you going to control them? However, if you're in one of those quieter, low density areas or a quiet time of day, whatever it may be, then you can make that argument and say, look, there's not normally people here. And this guy walked out from that little alley. I wasn't expecting it. It hit him. That's called an accident. And that would probably be accepted. What have you planned?
Yeah. And as the CAA have said on this channel before, it is about what I call the snowball effect, from the point of view that if you turn up and your drone is registered, you're flying in the correct airspace, and you're flying your drone within the correct subcategory, whether you've got certification or not, etc. You've carried out a risk assessment, even if you don't have one written down, etc. But you have all of these things in place. It's a curve of evidence, essentially. Then if something happens, it's an incident. It's not a blatant trying to commit an offence or anything. Yeah. And the CAA have said on this channel that does go to something. When you then have the guy flying over a football ground within 6 meters, and then it turns out he's not registered, he's not this, he's not that, then you start to get all these things thrown at them, the snowball effect. But as I say, there are not police officers hiding in the hedges. I can guarantee you, waiting to jump out and ticket you or arrest you for your hobby drone flight in the UK. It sometimes feels that's happening more than it is, mainly because of the social media side of things. Because of course, people, when they have a negative interaction that they filmed, they will put it online. So we do see a lot more of them, but that is still the minority of flights. But if you are concerned, there is a video just about 5 or 6 videos back where we have put together a leaflet for you to be able to hand to police officers, that has a little symbol on the bottom showing it's approved by the NPCC counter drone team, that explains to the officer what a legal drone flight is and the fact that you feel that you are complying to everything that's on that document. So do look at that as well. It could give you a little bit of extra confidence, if nothing else. And Amok saying, this is such good info. Thank you, Amok, for the new hobbyist. Worth putting together a playlist for people that are new to the hobby. Yeah, the first part, not so much. Yes, but appreciate it. Yes, indeed. It was I needed to get that out this evening. We're actually going to clip the first part and put that into a separate video for tomorrow. So I may even clip that off this particular live stream. I'll have a go with the editing tomorrow and decide what to do. But yes, they were two kind of rough friends to put together, weren't they? But yeah. It's also important, as far as I'm concerned, that the hobby and the recreational flyers see what's happening on the specific side of things, because we're all one industry. We are all drone flyers, and what affects one does affect the other. And seeing what they're doing with the specific category can give us a bit of a window into what's coming in the open category investigation as well, basically. But yes, no, thank you for that. And I do feel like the latter part of this show was designed at new flyers to try and break down the airspaces in a very shortish live stream for them to be able to watch. But we will be having some more beginner type content on the channel as well, because I do feel like we get down some very deep rabbit holes here on Geeksvana. Yeah. We do get very sort of 3-letter heavy in our explanations. But yes, we will have some more simple beginner style content coming up as well, basically.
Yeah, our hands were forced on that specific category stuff by the
Yes.
release consultation. We couldn't ignore it. So sorry.
Exactly. Yeah, and as Christopher's been saying, it's what you call common sense and enjoy. Know where the airports and other restricted areas, military prisons, etc. Exactly. And once you start to know those things, as Phantom saying here, Angel, Altitude Angel app for those bits. It is once you start to get comfortable with the airspace and you're comfortable that the drone that you have can fly there, then you're good. I actually have a video which is called hacking or hack the UK drone regulations, which I made last year, may even have been late the year before. I've been doing this longer than I realise sometimes. But in that, I recommend that you actually look at the drone that you are flying. Don't try and learn everything that we've talked tonight. No. What are you flying? So, for instance, the Hall chap who has got this sub 250, learn the A1 airspace backwards, have that CAP 2012 with you, check your airspace, get all that stuff ready so that you become confident on your drone. You'll find that you'll take on some of the other stuff by osmosis, just by watching videos like this and just becoming an experienced drone operator. And because you'll then want to go and buy the larger drones, and then you'll think, actually, I'd like to start a drone business. And it very often escalates in a very dangerous way, some would say, for hobby drone flyers. But learn indeed learn the UK drone rules in terms of the drone you are actually flying. If you're an FPV flyer, if you're someone that's just flying the Avata or a Mini 3 flyer, that type of thing, learn them for that, because that will give you a lot of confidence in terms of what you actually need to do. That would certainly be my simplest advice.
That was the idea of the class markings, is that you'd buy a drone and it would actually have a leaflet that said, you can fly this drone in these categories or these categories if you got this training. And that would be it. You pick up the drone, it would tell you where you could fly it. Unfortunately, that all went to, well, I won't say the word, but yeah, it went there.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, no, indeed. John Burns, in actual fact, we do have some of that coming. And we also have some actual courses coming up in terms of where we're going to be having people coming along physically. Classes of about 30 or 40, and we have lots of drones, we're going to be able to actually put on beginner classes for that kind of thing, basically. But we also have some practical stuff coming up. We've got a night flying tutorial and explanation coming up very soon as well, which is an out of studio type of setup as well. So yes, we do have lots of those kind of things coming up, which is awesome. Excellent. Okay, well, I think we've gone through the list that I have for this evening. Is there anything else that you wanted to add from your many years of experience?
Well, I was about to say we'll be doing a nice little flight at some point, because I've now got my nice new shiny OA. We'll go and do a 1,000-foot flight, and we'll go and see what's.
That'll be another one showing us flying, and you'll start to see the sweat beading down when I have a drone flying at 1,000 feet, and under his permission, so he'll be sweating even more, frankly. Bramhall does. Could I ask a good app to have alongside the RC to have double check maps? Drone Assist, 100%.
Yeah,
again, if you look back, there's about 5 or 6 videos ago, there's a double bubble, which is the new Drone Assist launch, which explains that, but then there's also a live stream talking to the team behind it after it as well. But if you look on either of the app stores,
I've lost you.
Drone Assist is certainly the one to have. So there we go. As Graham loses his audio of me, but I can see that everybody else.
Yeah, I lost you for a second there. Did you mention the SSSI video? Because I think those two are worth watching together.
Yes, although we have an SSI, we have a triple SI update coming very soon. So in fact, I would hold off rewatching that one, because the awesome people at Altitude Angel have another update. In fact, another couple of very exciting updates, but one which we're going to be able to talk about in the next few days regarding triple SIs again. So that's all about to update. But yes, there is one that helps you avoid triple SIs with a very simple process, which you can check either on site or actually before you fly. So yes, but good luck, Bramhall, and please do come back in future live shows and let us know how you get on, because there is a very strong hobby hobby out there, and in all of these discussions that I hear with regulators, with enforcement and industry, the hobby does come up. And I think we're lucky in some ways that it comes up a lot more than it does in discussions that I overhear, because I'm not directly involved in a lot of that, in terms of the US and the FAA and that type of thing. And I think sometimes that cloud can sort of overhang here as well a little bit. But at the moment, recreational flyers have more freedoms than we've had under the previous rules. There's nothing to suggest that that's going to change. Even as far as when we were mirroring the rules, the CAA were going to keep the sub 250 legacy side of things, which in fact the EASA weren't going to keep that. They were going to, there were differentials there, etc. So I'm personally confident that we can keep that going, basically. Personally,
and think you go to France, try and fly in a town centre, because they really don't like you flying over properties.
Yes,
and there's a lot of properties in towns. So
I'm not saying there aren't going to be bumps. There aren't going to be bumps in the road, and there are plenty of people out there who would love to see no recreational drone flight happening. Certainly, they are certainly within industry, I would say. And they certainly have their own agendas, and we all know the kinds of industries those people might be within, and they do see us as those pesky hobbyists and those pesky recreational flyers. But there's still a very, very strong belief in keeping the airspace open. And very much when we had Chris on, the air traffic controller, generally professionals within aviation, they want to keep the airspace free to use and open to all, basically, with the correct safety put in place, which may be certification and that type of thing. So there is a lot of passion in the UK in terms of keeping that airspace open. So I know sometimes we have a lot of bits and pieces on the channel which can sound very heavy, very heavy going, but I do believe that there is a healthy hobby out there ahead. And Ellis, whatever happened to Callum Geeksvana, he's still and in fact doing very well at the CAA, and he's still within our Discord, which I know you're a Discord member as well, but he's a very, very busy guy. He's also just had his first child, so he's got a lot of stuff happening there. But you can get a lot of updates from Callum as well if you join LinkedIn, if you're interested in getting updates from him. He does actually have a blog and those type of things, which he's fairly active on, so there we go. But he was obviously very kind around Christmas time to come on and be the public face, to have things thrown at him when the VLOS AMC came out and everything. And to this day, I still respect that kind of bravery, to come on a predominantly, especially then, recreational channel and face down people in interview. And he even came on live as well to talk about these things. So yeah, and even on live on the same stream as Bruce from XJet as well. So I still take my hat off to him for that, certainly. So
wasn't an easy gig, was it?
No, exactly. So as I say, thank you everybody for joining us. I really appreciate it. We'll be back with more live streams this week, and we've already got some in the planning for next week and the week after. Tomorrow I'm off to look at some very special trials in terms of counter drone technology, which I will be talking about very soon on the channel as well, which I'm very excited about. So you won't hear much from me tomorrow, but yeah, we'll see you next time on Geeksvana Live. Thanks, Graham.
Cheers. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.